And it's actually from the book of Esther in the Bible, of all places. It talks about Mordecai, who was a leader in that time.
A leader is also a light in the darkness.
I think differently, and now I believe in myself because I'm around him, and I think even more is possible.
Welcome to Leading Lubbock, the podcast where we spotlight the voices shaping our city and beyond. Each week, we bring you inspiring stories and thought-provoking conversations with leaders who are making a difference in their communities. What makes this journey unique? Every guest is nominated by someone who's already been on the show, creating a chain of leadership that reflects the power of connection and community. Join us as we explore what it takes to lead with purpose and impact. This is Leading Lubbock.
All right, here we are today, episode number 12 of Leading Lubbock. And I got the pleasure of meeting with a good friend of mine, actually nominated by Tim Minix when he was on here. And now I get to sit down with you in person, one guy that I have looked up to for a really long time. I've seen you in the real estate world, admired what you do. We have Doug Duncan on here today. Doug runs a real estate group at Keller Williams, the Duncan Realty Group.
That's right.
And you guys are killing it.
Right.
You guys had a great year last year, closing up with $43 million in volume, and you've been in business for 5 years, which means you started on the cusp of a big event that happened worldwide.
Right. Sure did.
What people know as COVID.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah, way to go. It sounds like you're doing an awesome job in the real estate world. And then you also have a family.
Yeah.
Married to Rebecca, and have 2 girls.
Yeah.
Teenagers.
2 teenagers.
So
yeah.
you're right in the thick of it, man.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful chaos.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but I will look to you for your leadership examples.
Yeah, I'll be writing a book soon. That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll be on the lookout for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to get into leadership with you because I know that you've been in various capacities of leadership over your lifetime, and right now I know that you've got a lot that's on your plate, and so I want to hear a little bit about just your journey up to this point. What twists and turns have led you here, and what you've learned along the way. So first, we're going to kick it off with, to you, what does effective leadership look like, and then how did that evolve over time?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all, and congrats on a great podcast. And it's cool, really
Thanks,
cool.
man.
Proud of you, man. It's really great. Effective leadership to me is the team winning. Everyone that's a part of a leader's life. Some people call them followers, others ambassadors, but I think the unity of people behind any one leader really have to be winning in order for effective leadership to be present. So how that has changed for me or evolved over time is pretty drastic, because I think when I first became a leader, I was 27 years old, and I really thought effective leadership was like me winning, and we did win a lot, although I took a lot of credit for it and didn't give credit where credit was due. And so I learned as a leader, leadership's all about everybody else winning, And so, I think that's how it evolved for me. There was a time where I really felt like everybody's serving me, and I think that was validated by some of our success, And so I was kind of reinforcing some of these negative, behaviors as a result of like thinking I was a big deal, So I got a baptism by fire into leadership at a young age, and that's not to say that we didn't, help people win, and there were, other great things that happened during that time, but I really, my leadership understanding over time has really evolved into your people have to be winning at a really high level, and they have to be able to know they're winning and know quickly, that they're winning.
Yeah, that's great. I think many times leaders can take that approach of, it's all pointing towards me. What do I look like? What am I doing? How much progress am I making? And so keeping that lens on who's around you, who's with you in the process is huge.
Yeah.
I know that's not always easy though, and I can imagine there may be some pressures added to you on making sure that everybody's around you winning? Is that anything that ever keeps you up at night? Like thinking about the team,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Constantly I'm thinking, are the people that work with us able to accomplish their goals, whether it's financially or personally, spiritually, whether the plans they had set last year, like actually coming to fruition, all that is, for sure. I would say there's been several times. You could probably interview my wife next and ask her about all the times she's helped me, calm down, when I'm concerned about, all those things. But certainly. If your people's well-being is not keeping you up, then you're probably not leading.
That's good. How about motivation wise, to like keep yourself motivated to keep pouring into the people around you, because that could be exhausting. And so stamina, motivation, what's encouraging you, how do you keep that momentum going?
That's a great question. I would say there's a part of the overall goal that you had set for your business or for whatever it is that you're leading that needs to remain kind of in the forefront, like as in be reminded about why you're doing this. And that should be able to keep you motivated. I mean, there's hard parts of leading anything, but if you don't really have a reason for why you're doing it, then, any one of those things will send you packing, to do something else,
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so just kind of keeping like a vision, keeping the outcome, keeping
and I think that's okay
focus.
if it changes. Like if you had a plan to whatever is make a certain amount of money or provide a certain amount of services for a number of people, or whatever your growth of your organization, if the why behind those goals isn't really like present, like what you're funding necessarily, then I think you lose sight of it automatically.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you talked about this 27-year-old Doug Duncan, and now we're talking about today Doug Duncan. What were some of the events along the way, as specific or as vague as you want to be, but like what led you to the evolution of leadership and getting to the point where you could say now it's like not just a win for me, but it's a win for everybody around me? Are there key events anywhere in there that you can point to and say like that was something that kind of was a catalyst for me?
I think there's so many things that I've learned from, mistakes that I've made, people that I've been in business with, people that I've gotten out of business with, that I would say were all formidable, like that helped me mature in my leadership. And even recently, I would say like there's things every year that create some of these like intention points about this is going to press my character, or it's going to press my integrity, or it's going to, put some pressure up against, what my, reminded me of like what my intentions are, for doing this thing, And so I think the most probably valuable thing to me was I became a Christian in 2017. I went to church growing up as a kid, but I would say I didn't really even hear the gospel of grace until I was 34, and learning how to walk in that over the last 8 years, now is, I think, probably been more my learning to walk in that grace as it was given to me, I think has been the journey of leadership that I've been on lately, namely, like, how do I lead people in a way that's not just honoring them, but honoring God? How do I serve clients in a way that is not just like fiduciary to them, but also, the highest integrity? I mean, how do you also, really believe in a God that is sovereign over the things of the world and also still push for sales and revenues and that sort of thing, right? So I'm like, oh man, there's such a balance here. And so, I would say that's for sure the leadership, hinge point of my career, which was, radical change for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. When that change took place, did it also simultaneously were you having change around who you were surrounded with, like the influence that you had from other people?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The things that I used to love and the books that I used to read and the people that I used to follow and people I was in business with, all of that created like a whole new perspective for me. Like as in the things I used to love, I started to hate, and the things I used to hate, I started to love. And so it has been, it's been different.
Yeah, that's cool. With that, would you say that was an overnight change, or was that like a progress as things were kind of taking place?
For me, there was extremely overnight portion of that was very much like deadness to like new life. And there was like a maturing, and still is a maturing over these last, few years, where I've found parts of my own desires to kind of linger in this person that I used to be. And, so I think it's crucial to have people around you that are reminding you of who you are, now versus who you used to be. So there had to be a change in relationships, change in people you run with and people that, you're affiliated with. So,
yeah. And I know where you work, I know who you work with, and I know you have positive influences around you, which is huge. And I think that's just important about a leader. An important trait is just making sure that you're getting poured into as well. Because I know often it's like, I think I was thinking about it this weekend as a bucket that's overflowing. A conversation I had recently was really, my hope is that we're getting poured into so much, whether that's spiritually or whether that's in the positive influences we have of those around us, that it's then an overflow. It's kind of what we start giving to the world around us. And sometimes when my tank is empty, I feel like a coffee cup kind of like this, and what's pouring out is just when it's getting hit and it's sloshing out rather than a constant overflow. And it may not be always a good thing what's getting sloshed out of it versus when I'm intentional about what's going in, it's an intentional what's coming out. So anyways, I just know that you are a pretty consistent person, what I know about you.
Sure.
I'd like to get into that too. What kind of habits do you have? Any practices or daily habits or weekly habits, anything that you're kind of plugged into that help feed you as a leader?
And as I age, some of those habits are like coming and going, which I'm also like walking through, namely like from health habits and spiritual habits and family habits and work habits. These are all changing as this thing, continues to deteriorate and change and that sort of thing. I make every intention I can to run or to exercise, to spend time in God's Word and spend time with God's people and spend time under God's teaching. Got to have time with my wife and kids. It's crucial to who I am as a man. And my business, there's a ton of things that are very much on purpose out of like habit now, but I've been studying real estate for the last 20 years, so now as a matter of like productivity and things that my job calls for me to do, there's habits that I'm doing on a regular basis. And so I think certainty is something from a leadership perspective that people don't have as a part of daily habits. Like as in leaders aren't certain about where they're going, why they're going there, who's going with them, who's staying behind, and so forth. So instead of being certain, like as in making a decision, they'll maybe linger, wait for buy-in, ask other people, collaborate a lot, and maybe sometimes never make a decision, And I've really always thought that certainty is way better, even if you're wrong, as long as you're going in a direction, And I've told people this all the time, like that you can't steer a parked car, so you have to be moving in order to turn around, but you can't just go the right direction if you're not moving at all, right? So some of these, especially in small business, audibles and changes that are made kind of halfway through, they can't be made unless you're moving in a direction somewhere.
Yeah, that's good.
So I think it's okay to be certain, and wrong about a direction.
Right.
And it's okay to be certain and wrong and going in a direction that other people are following you in, provided that you're making changes according to like what feedback you're getting and what successes you have or failures that you have, sort of thing. So I probably lean too much on the direction of like certainty, like, oh, this is the answer, or this is the direction we need to go. Some people would say, man, he probably doesn't collaborate enough or whatever, and that's probably true at some level, and then not. Yeah, I mean, it's not true like in others, like as in I think we probably don't need to sit around and talk about it. Like, here's what we're going to do, and let's move this direction, and let's see what happens. And what I have found is that people who follow a leader really don't care about big picture, big vision, big mission things. They care about purpose and productivity. Like as in, if people who work for a leader can make productivity related decisions and purpose related decisions, then the overall mission or the overall vision of something is really just something they're supporting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you ask for other people for buy-in or a decision about mission, vision, things, you lose them.
Man, that's so good. I mean, you're saying things that I feel like maybe I've thought about, but never in the way that you're talking about them. Because I think as you're talking about this vehicle and a parked car, and you're turning the wheel, but nothing's really moving if the wheels are steady, stable. There's a couple different lessons in that I'm hearing. Is one, inaction is probably one of the worst things we can do. Is sit there and either wait or just maybe not have the courage to hit the gas. So that's one thing. But then I'm also hearing this teachability, this teachable spirit. That once you're going, it's okay to maybe listen to the passenger. You're saying like, how about right here instead of straight?
That's right.
Or left.
Or back that way.
Yeah, let's turn around. Let's make a sharp U.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that's okay for us to be open to. I think maybe a pitfall, which you've talked about at the very beginning of our time together, about this me mentality. Like, I'm gonna win.
Right.
I'm going to put the noise canceling headphones on while I drive.
Right.
And I know where we're going, and you guys are you're here.
Right.
Do what I say when I say it.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about is being open to hearing the feedback, to being open to hearing suggestions, and to maybe make some alterations along the way because of that. So kind of these two things that I hear. I love the book, The One Thing, and we've talked about that a lot before.
Yeah,
we've actually had some collaboration on that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love the most that came from when I was studying The One Thing is the idea of the destination and typing it into your navigation. So it's like on your phone, you go to maps, you type in the destination, and then that's a macro view. Like that's the big picture. Mm-hmm. And then as you start going, everything zooms into where you're at. You kind of lose the big picture and you're focused. And that's where I hear your team talking about like, we're not looking at the big GPS all the time. That's your job as a leader.
That's right.
Our job is like, are we turning left? Or are we turning right? Are we going the speed limit? Do we need to speed up a little bit?
That's right.
So
I agree. And I think that a team is made better by those decisions too. Like as in the experience on the way to the destination is kind of everything when it comes to leadership, right? Because if you're going too fast, going too slow, taking too many missed turns, you're going to lose people for that same reason. And if they're not part of the decision making, then there's no responsibility for them to take either,
Right.
And so I've seen that a lot in our business. Once leaders get back out of mission and vision and back into productivity decisions and purpose decisions, there's just challenges and friction. And I think that's where a lot of our teams struggle. It's just that that's not really part of what you said you were going to do. You're going to take care of leadership things, and they're going to take care of productivity things, and it's supposed to remain that way. And I think that at least when I'm as a leader, the challenges I face are mostly a matter of getting back into decisions that I really don't need to be making.
So have you learned leverage, I'm sure, about the things that aren't your things,
right,
and you need to hand these things over to somebody else?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure
absolutely. From a leadership perspective, I should be giving this to someone who's better at this than I am, right? Really, the good leader is willing to say, there's people that are better than I am at this,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
I love analogies. You
Yeah.
give me a good car analogy. I mean, we could talk on ramps, off ramps. When do you need to stay going?
Yeah, sure.
When do you need to just
Yeah.
say it's time to exit?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
lots of good stuff in
I
there.
appreciate that.
But that's, you're speaking a lot about humility. That's what I hear over and over again in this is maybe sometimes you need to let go of the wheel.
Yeah.
And let somebody else take over.
Oh, yeah.
I know some leaders that sometimes step down from leading the entire business for a season and let somebody else take
Yeah.
over.
Man, some of the most talented people that I've gotten out of business with was a result of me being too involved in decisions that were related to them, rather than like decisions that they should have been making rather than me.
Okay.
And and those are hard lessons to learn as a leader. And you keep going. You just get up and do it again. And try and do better the next time.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Is there like a pivotal moment in your life that maybe has like shaped who you are today? When you're thinking about 2025 Doug Duncan, is there anything that maybe it could be career or life that took place that has been very, very formative in who you are? I know we've touched on some of that, but is there anything in particular you want to get into on that?
Man, I think my marriage is going into its 20-year anniversary, and I have teenage daughters, and so the only other male in my household is American Brittany, bird dog, and I
awesome.
think realizing that it's really not about me is probably some of the more formidable moments of both my marriage and my family, as far as that goes. Lost my dad about 18 months ago. And so, 83 years old, wonderful life he led. And I would say overall, someone who led from behind the scenes, was always doing things to serve people's interest without really taking any credit ever, and so you hardly knew he was there, except that things wouldn't work if he was not around, and so I think there's a lot of humility in trying to be like somebody that you've loved and respected your whole life, and so that's I think very formidable for me. Watching I have two older siblings, watching them both succeed and fail in areas of life before I've shown up to even, give my attempt at that thing, has been really revealing, and so, they've been a huge blessing to just forecasting what's coming down the road. First it was their careers, and then it was their marriages and their kids, and now it's their grandkids, and so man, that's super impactful to me, I'd say. But I've been a part of several different teams and companies. I've launched companies, we've sold companies. Some people you've had on your show that I think were extremely formidable for teaching me how to be a great leader. People like Tim Minix and Tara Newton and Dusty Thompson, and these people are all very, I would say, influential in my understanding of what it means to really be a leader. I think leadership is not really a one-time event. This is a maturing process, and it's it takes time. It's a crock pot. It's not a microwave. This this takes time,
Yeah. You talked about your dad a little bit, and were there maybe lessons that you gleaned from him growing up that you got to watch him maybe in the fire, watch him doing, maybe it was even leadership at home, but just ways that you could document that, file that for later as you grew up?
My dad is a measure twice, cut once kind of guy.
Okay.
And jet engine mechanic, barber, extreme engineer, and so I think as we're looking back at his life over the last couple of years, just the impact that he had on a lot of people, I think it was really kind of boils down to be ready, be prepared, be informed, make wise decisions. Not everything matters the same. pick your battles. My dad was shut the front door. He always those are really important things.
Yeah.
So just living life in general. So many things you remember about him. But yeah,
That's interesting because you talk about getting in the car and just driving, and then I hear kind of this get ready. Get ready for the trip. Let's plan it. Let's make sure we got all we need.
Yeah,
in the car with us when we go.
Yeah, we were not the same person. My dad and I. We were
Okay.
very opposite, tendencies and preferences, and so I see him in the mirror when I'm at home, and I also, kind of fight some of those things because I'm like, man, we need to go over here because this is where no one else is, and let's go do something big, and my dad is like, well, let's think about it, and so there's a lot of things that are kind of going on inside, around that. I would say, these have been really important to just my, growing into manhood, as a father and a husband and as a leader of other people. What really matters isn't what always seems to really matter. So it was a very impactful man for sure.
Yeah. Well, no two leaders are made the same.
Yeah.
We could be cut from a similar cloth, but yet I think that our makeup and the way that we are styled towards leading others, interacting with others, is so different.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm sure you were highly influenced by your dad in some positive ways, and still highly influence a lot of people in positive ways, and yet have a different leadership approach. And I mean, the cool thing about being on this side of the table is just being able to hear how people lead,
right,
and seeing so many different, where I've already interviewed 12 people now, and also different, similarities, yes, but you can't put two side by side and say that's leadership, because everybody has their own unique styles and their own unique traits. So I mean, I think that's really neat, and I think there's some importance too of co-leading. And it's not even you have to be a business partner with somebody, but sharing the seat with somebody at all times, and it sounds like you do that really well too through some of the humility that I've seen you practice.
Yeah, thanks. So. I appreciate that. No, I lived a majority of my adult life up until, like I said earlier, about 34 years old, where there wasn't an ounce of humility in my life. Everything was really kind of a cover up for insecurities. What if I fail? What if I don't impress? What if I don't? All these things. And so, so I think it's been a really good last 8 years. And I'm grateful. God's been very gracious. Very grateful to be in this position.
That's cool. When I started my career in sales, I was a sales agent. Some people may be listening and be like, I remember this, Ruben. Because my hope is that I too have grown in humility. There was a season in my life where entitlement was just a big factor. And so when things took place, it was, or I was leading a certain job, it was I wanted everybody to be doing what they needed to do when they needed to be doing it, but most importantly, the way I wanted it to be done. And grace was not a part of that equation. And there was a lot of lessons that came out of that. Unfortunately, I don't know what it was that was the turning point. I can't really pinpoint the moment, but I know, or the event that took place in that moment. But it really was a transformation, and really credit the Holy Spirit on that. Because there was things that happened that I couldn't have done myself.
Yeah.
And fortunately, humility did enter the picture a little bit more. And I would hope that for most leaders, if there is this man, where do I fall on that? Maybe the tendency is to be toward the, hey, this is the way, and this is the only way, and this is the way we're going.
Yeah.
That hopefully there could be that slight, opening your ear to who's with you on the journey.
Yeah, that's right.
And start making some course corrects based on the feedback you're getting.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that's another lesson that I've had in leadership is really who you're in business with really matters a lot, and not just who they are, but really knowing who they are. As in be in business with them on purpose for a reason that matters to you, because then you're just giving kind of what's left over to people that you haven't really committed to, exercised a plan around. We have this temptation as real estate agents and leaders as hiring people. You can go hire as many people as want to get a real estate license, but it doesn't mean that those people are getting the best of you just because you've hired them, and the temptation is to just make it a numbers game, and man, that lends itself to high burnout and kind of riskier situations. So the people that are in business with you, or people that are in relationship with you on the purpose of like you're the leader, who they are is really everything.
Yeah. So there may be some of what you said, because you've unpacked a lot about your journey getting up to this point, but if there's a lesson that you wish, or that now that you wish you would have learned earlier in life, or just known earlier in life, what would that be? So basically going back to 27-year-old Doug, having a conversation with him, like what would be the main point that you'd want to get across?
A little bit every day makes a huge impact over time.
Okay.
Your ability to do something, there's only 24 hours to do it in. And if you're really trying to expand exponentially in your leadership, it just takes time. And it takes timing, like as in some people have perfect timing and some people have lousy timing. So you could be a great leader over time with lousy timing, and it appear as though you're a bad leader. It's not true. Because it matters like what's going on in the landscape of your life and your business and your career in order for the good that you're doing from your leadership to really show up. I think of, like 2007 and 8, 9 and 10 during the real estate crash of those years. Man, great leaders were kind of struggling in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
And even during, I would say, the last couple of years, whenever we have 7.5% interest rates and difficult times for people to convince real estate transactions to take place, I would say, leaders have kind of been, on pause. It doesn't mean they're just lousy leaders. It could be like lousy timing too.
Yeah.
So a little bit every day for a long period of time will make massive impacts. And eventually, you'll have great timing.
Yeah.
I've told a lot of people that if you own like a food truck, or if you even want to own a food truck, the time to get into the food truck business is not the day that the convention comes to town. That's not the day to start a food truck. Like, don't just go buy a food truck, food and supplies, and pick up a menu. That's a terrible time to get into the business, because you'll have a number of people to serve and you won't be able to do it very well.
Yeah.
But if you have a food truck today and the convention shows up in 18 months, but you spend 18 months grinding away at your craft and learning how to do this really well, and then the convention shows up, you're going to be equipped and ready to go. And I think that leadership's a lot like that. You can't just be a great leader at the time that leadership is required. You have to be in leadership over time for a long time. And then the timing will come where it's perfect, and it'll be a good match for you and for the occasion. And and it'll look like you're brilliant. And the truth is, for decades maybe you have been grinding away at this.
That's kind of that overnight success idea, where you look, from the public perception, outside perception, man, this guy just, what happened overnight? He just blew up. Well, no, he's actually been prepping for this moment. You just never heard of him.
That's right.
Until the moment happened, and then bam. So that makes perfect sense. I love this idea of a little bit over time. It's discouraging because I think success, I think leadership, again, we'll go back to the book, The One Thing, but that idea of exponential growth, like a little bit every day, but as you keep going, there will be that exponential curve eventually, as your efforts double, as your efforts, your results start building upon each other, there will be a time where the exponential curve just skyrockets.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's discouraging in that early time period, the middle time period, where it's like I am growing a little bit every day, or I'm doing a little bit more every day,
Right.
and yet I'm not seeing the results yet. Where are the results? Why am I not an overnight success yet on year 3, year 7?
Kids, teenagers. I have teenagers, and I would say 20-somethings, even some 30-somethings, really kind of struggle with maybe the success of their parents. Like, as in, I should already be able to fill in the blank, whatever.
Yeah.
I should already be able to do this by now, or whatever. And I think this idea that we are instantly as successful as other people who's been doing it for the last several decades is maybe not just a misunderstanding. Maybe it's pride, maybe it's other things, but it is common.
Yeah.
And it's easy to kind of fall into this, like, man, if I just work harder and longer, then I'll be able to sell $50 million. But that's not necessarily true. It might be on a small occasion. There's a few people, sure, get lucky. But building a scalable business where like leadership is good and high integrity and things are done the right way, and there's equity that has grown over time as a result of your efforts, but the overnight thing is just people work hard for it, and it's a false flag. It's not real.
Yeah. My fear, not to say that this would happen every time, but sometimes when people do make it, and it is that like, man, hit the right time, right, everything fell into place. Maybe sometimes they missed out on some of the lessons of the slow progress, the slow little incremental wins and losses and failures. And then those things could be detrimental too, to not having experienced those, to be able to lead, in a great way. So not to say that somebody can have it all and it's great and they became the overnight success and it was awesome, but I think more times than not we see the journey and we see the up and downs and the flat lines, the days we don't feel like we're really progressing, but sticking it out is the win, right? It is the progress. It is the enhancements, the little improvements we make every day.
You have no idea when the convention's coming to town for your life. You have no idea. These moments of opportunity, they present themselves quickly and then they go away quickly. And sometimes they're not the right opportunity. And so I think that's okay to say no to some things that may seem like it's going to change your life. The temptation of leaders is to bite on anything that looks like future success.
Yep.
And a lot of people say yes to everything, and they're by definition saying no to most things, And I think that's early in my career was very much me. I was the yes man. Let's figure it out. The answer is yes. We'll figure it out. And as I'm getting older, I'm learning that's not the right answer. And there are other things that I am saying no to when I'm saying yes to some things. Yeah.
It's a lesson I need to learn sooner than later. I have the tendency, I'll look up, not even intentionally be doing it. And a month goes by, or even if a couple of weeks go by, to look back and my plate is so full and I'm wondering why. It's like, well, I said yes to all these things and now I've got to manage what my no's are. Because my plate's so full. So.
And to so many degrees, I'm still in that same circle, a tornado of yeses that I've said yes to, and but I am getting better at saying no, and I hope to. I think the truth is I'm gonna have to say no, a lot more, just by not being able to, I need to go to bed earlier these days, So.
Well, man, I think that the more this is obvious, but the more you become a leader, and the more you're being seen as a leader, the more opportunities that are going to come your way, the more yeses and nos that you have to choose from. And I think as a leader, maybe, I don't know if it's because of the experiences, but maybe we become hardwired for the yeses. Like that's just our default mode is yes, and I'll figure it out. I wonder if there's a way to change that to, I want my default to be no, unless this is so enticing, it's able to sway me over to, okay, this is a yes.
Right.
And so, I mean, I would love to get to that place, and maybe there is just like, all right, everyday practice. I'm gonna wake up and the answer's no.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
Unless it's so good that it
Yeah.
should be a yes.
Well, I do know that in my industry, our industry, that the idea that I'm going to spend an insane amount of time, overtime, building, like for instance, my sales business, is something that is kind of looked down upon in our industry. Like, as in, what you need to do is you need to do really well for a short period of time, and then what you need to do is you need to go hire a bunch of people, and then you can do less and less and less. Then it's like people write books about this,
Yeah.
It start entire companies about this. Some companies are like named this, like as in get in and then get out. That's like a huge problem for this idea of high integrity, do things right over a long period of time, and it'll pay off for you over time. Not to mention, leadership is kind of dismissed if the idea is I'm going to get in, get out, and all these people can just kind of work and I'll just be gone.
Sure.
And I'm not saying there's not a time to sell, not a time to multiply, expand, and divert your attention to other areas, but the tendency is to get out quickly. And I think what I'm fighting is this same temptation of like, man, you're a real estate agent. You know what you should do? You should start this company to complement your real estate business. And then after you start this one, you can start this one. And in my experience, that has proven to be extremely tiresome. And there's a very low rate of success whenever you bounce on your craft to go try and do these other things. And so I'm sitting in this one for a little while, because we really want to do right by the Duncan Realty Group and the team that we have and the clients that we serve, and and I think my role will be changing the more that we hire fantastic people and develop the people that we have.
Sure.
Try not to leave too soon.
Yeah, and I think everybody around you probably appreciates that too. Whether it be your spouse, like, I'd love to see you just keep staying consistent here and keep serving where you're serving.
Right.
Same thing with your team and the people you're pouring into. The same thing with your kids. Be able to see and model that consistency, by their dad. And so, I think that's wonderful. And I love that consistency model that you've painted over the last 5 years of leading this group, bringing on great talent. And even your position kind of evolving over time, but yet remaining consistent in the leadership position that you have there. How many people are on the group right now?
We have 3 salespeople, 2 admin, and we just made an offer today, actually, for another admin.
Man, fantastic! And you crushed it in sales last year, so that's phenomenal, man. Yeah, keep up the hard work.
Grateful too. No, it was a difficult year, and there was a lot of people who didn't have fantastic years, so we're grateful for the year.
That's great. Okay, well, I want to get into this book that we got here on the table. You had a couple of different ones that were really monumental for you. This was one that really I haven't read it yet. I feel like it needs to be sitting over here on this bookshelf. But talk to us about, this is called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. What did you get out of the book? Why is it just the one that was transformative for you? Paint us a picture there.
Well, the premise of the book is there's reasons that businesses fail and businesses succeed. And it's on the foundations of these 4 basic disciplines. And the idea that you would establish a goal that is substantial, not just something that you can hit, but something that might be a stretch, that you would measure the activity that you're doing, not the result that showed up from the last activity, but like actually measure they call it a lead measure. So this calories in, calories out, calories in, calories burned rather. It's like, I'm gonna measure the activity, the thing that makes the result happen, rather than just looking at the result. And then having a scoreboard, like actually being able to visually see, like, are we winning or are we not winning? And they use a great example of a pickup game, like a basketball game. Like, you could just see people that are shooting hoops, just hanging out shooting on a basketball court, looks way different than the same people with the same basketball that are playing for time and for a score. It's wildly different. This idea that your business is more of just a shooting hoops than an actual game.
Yeah.
Because no one knows what the score is or what time it is, in the game. And so that was really eye-opening. And then I think maybe their last point is somewhere around like this cadence of accountability. Like I'm going to be regularly accountable to what I do on a daily basis. Our team meets every single week talking about what we're doing, and understanding what we do every week is frankly a little boring.
It's the monotony, right?
It's a little like, we just talked about this yesterday. I feel like we were here yesterday.
Yeah.
And a cadence of accountability is more of like a culture of accountability, like a way in which we check in and report and do what we do well. But also, if we don't do well, we're accounting for that too, And so, I love this book. I think it's a fantastic read if you're kind of looking for, some lift, some takeoff, in the business. These are some really good, ways to install, productivity.
And that's awesome. Well, the subheading to that is achieving your most important goals, which is cool because there's this idea of also priority in there too. It's not just seems like it's just achieving just a goal, wildly important. Kind of has some meaning behind it too. So.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you were like looking for a book summary, but I think I've read this book a couple of times and talked about it a couple of dozen times with people. Okay. That I've seen it literally impact the way that they were doing their business, and so it's been big for me. It's been a good one.
That's awesome.
But there's so many incredible authors these days.
Yeah.
Like information. I told this to somebody the other day. Like information is so out there and available and free, and you don't necessarily have to buy the book in order to kind of understand the disciplines. But you taking action on those things, I think is what's hard. It's what people find difficult.
Yeah, I think that's so true about success. It's like the secrets aren't hidden out there for success. It's not like some magic formula.
No, not magic.
And really, I've heard people say like, I don't mind giving away all of my secrets that have led me to reach the success I'm in because nobody's going to do it.
That's right.
Like nobody's going to do the work.
Yeah, no.
And so I think
they'll all come listen.
Magic, right?
They'll all come listen to you though.
They will.
They would love to like take time out of their day instead of doing their job. Come listen to you.
Yeah.
And the idea that you're going to engage what the goal was. I mean, a fraction of people ever do it.
Yeah. If I can encourage people, and this is even agents who work at our office, agents that I help with outside of this office, like just sitting down with people, like just take the action, get the car rolling with something in some area, because that's where the results will come is by getting, to your point, getting the car moving. Instead of, I think motivation is great. I mean, people even taking their time out of their day to listen to this podcast, right? My hope is to motivate them.
Yeah.
And yet nothing comes good out of this podcast unless it's taken and utilized to some degree in their life. And so, we have it. We have it everywhere. I think this is one of hundreds of thousands of podcasts out in the world. Yeah. That book is one of millions of books out in the world.
Yeah, it's true. This is a business like pandemic that we have. The inaction, lack of productivity, lack of leadership around productivity, all of that is just it's been a problem since day one. And it hasn't been as a result of not knowing what to do. As much as it's been more of this like, I don't really have to be accountable for not doing what I know how to need to do. So the business world is full of information. Start taking some action, figure it out along the way.
I bet this comes up in your coaching with your agents every once in a while.
Yeah, this is every once in a while.
This idea of accountability and getting to work.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and having a coaching relationship is maybe a little bit different. Well, it certainly is different than just maybe somebody getting some tips from a podcast or maybe reading a book or going to a convention for that matter. But I think a coaching relationship is one where you're inviting all that into your life. You're saying, what I'm doing ain't working, so I need to invite into my life, all of these aspects of how to execute on things. So.
Okay, good stuff, man. Well, thanks for sharing about this book. I know you had several others that were high up on your list.
Yep.
And,
Well, yours too, apparently, because you know you've got a few of them here. So.
yeah, I do. Tara and I are actually talking about this when I interviewed her.
Yeah.
One of the things that she said that I loved and I held on to the most was you don't have to finish every book.
Oh, that's right.
And so I would love to say every book up here I've read all the way through, but I could tell you I've at least cracked them open and I've started and I've gotten the premise out of them.
That's right.
And I have this idea of, read as many books as you can, but finish the good ones, and read the good ones twice.
Times,
So
I agree with that.
Don't put the pressure on finishing every book you pick up.
That's right.
Well, awesome. Last question for you, man, is, we've talked leadership to death today, but I want to also hear if you can define it in one sentence, what would be your definition of leadership?
My definition of leadership would be serve other people for the rest of your life.
Be giving.
Yeah.
Like, give of yourself. Never fail at that. Never.
Yeah. Create relationships in which you can take care of other people like forever.
Yeah.
And then I don't really know. I think seasons of leadership, functions of leadership come and go.
Yeah.
But the leader typically stays around once you've learned how to really take care of people.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. What I love about this too is I hope this is not geared for people who are just leading businesses.
Yeah.
And because we're all leaders.
Oh, yeah.
Some aspect of our life we are leading somebody.
That's right.
And one of the episodes we had a 9-year-old boy on here, and he is leading. He's making a difference, right? And I think everybody is. And I think this idea of service opens that up. It's not just, execute well, do great sales meetings, have these these big rah-rah, conventions, and that doesn't have to be leadership. Leadership is the everyday, you're going to the store and the person at the checkout line, you're just loving and you're serving and you're just really interested in them. Like we could serve everywhere.
That's right.
In whatever job that we're sitting in. So
Yeah,
that
that's
idea
right.
of that serving until for as long as we live, that doesn't just apply to you and I. It
That's
doesn't
right.
apply to people on the show. This applies to everybody across the board.
Yeah. I told my daughter that at a volleyball game this last weekend, be a leader for your team, and she's not the oldest on the team, not the youngest on the team, but the team needed a leader. They were at a place where they needed, someone to step in.
And the seasons change. You mentioned seasons.
Yeah, for sure.
There are seasons of leadership will be different. It could be day to day, it could be week to week, it could be year to year.
Right.
So
Yeah, it does come and go. Indeed.
man, thank you for being on the show today.
thank you for
There's
having
some
me.
good stuff in here. I love
that.
the style of leadership that the approach that you've taken, which to me just, again, humble service is really, if I could pick two words to define our time together, and I think even your leadership, there's humility and service, and I love that.
Thank you.
So thanks for being that example. I'm excited to get this out to people. We're also going to give this book away, so some
Nice.
follower
Awesome.
will get to read it as
They're
well.
gonna love
So
it. Yeah.
maybe I keep hoping somehow I'll be able to win them, but I don't think it works that way.
Yeah, exactly.
But man, it was great having you.
Thank you.
And
That's
I'm
it.
sure we'll be chatting again someday.
Yeah, of course.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you.